Martyrdom that was given to my son, Ali Ibrahim Suleiman. He's one of the 6 martyrs that were given funeral prayer just now. So I am feeling happy that he was given the gift of martyrdom. But I'm very sad that the Nigerian security, who were trained and paid to guard the citizens, they used the gun that was meant for the protection of the citizens to kill my son.
We are not armed. If we are armed, these people cannot face us. They are Boko Haram, they are bandits. Why can't they go and fight them? It's because they see we are unarmed. That is why they are killing us, shooting us, and this will never deter us from what we are doing. The only thing that will stop this protest is for the government to respect the law of this land and free our leader, Sheikh Ibrahim Zazzaki.
Cameroonian security forces moved into the capital's central prison overnight on Monday to put down an uprising by inmates protesting at the government's crackdown on the Anglophone separatist movement. Footage from Cameroon's state TV channel, CRTV, showed the area still cordoned off by police on Tuesday afternoon. Security forces in riot gear could be also seen entering the building. Scores of people from Cameroon's English-speaking regions have been arrested over the last 2 years during the conflict between the Francophone-dominated government and separatist rebels seeking to form an independent state called Ambazonia. A Cameroonian security source confirmed that the riot took place and said there were several injured in the violence. CRTV also reported the inmates were protesting conditions in the prisons and had burned down the library and a workshop for female inmates. The report said several prisoners had been injured and that the army and police were working to restore calm.
Possibilité d'entrer à l'intérieur. On nous fait du MRC qui sont incarcérés dans cette prison et ça a donné lieu à tout ce qu'on a vécu hier. Et l'information de dernière minute.
Now, the war in Yemen can be stopped because the warring sides still support a UN peace deal brokered in Stockholm last December. This is according to UN envoy Martin Griffiths. The 4-year war between the Iranian allied Houthi movement and a Saudi-backed coalition supporting the Yemeni government has killed many tens of thousands of people and left millions on the brink of famine. He said that while the Stockholm agreement was taking some time to be implemented, both sides saw it as a gateway to opening up negotiations on a political solution, and the international community supported the deal last week. A meeting between the warring sides on the neutral ground of a UN ship in the Red Sea brought a surprise breakthrough with agreement on technical aspects of a ceasefire deal in the flashpoint port of Hodeida.
I believe that this war in Yemen is eminently resolvable. I believe that the diplomatic consensus, whether in the Council or a growing diplomatic consensus in the region towards resolving it politically, is in our favour. So it's, I think, quite remarkable and unexpected in some ways that this time that has elapsed since December the 13th, that we are still observing commitment from both sides to make what they agreed in Stockholm happen, despite all the difficulties. The longer this goes on, not only is it the longer that people will die from hunger and conflict, but that the solution becomes more difficult. Yemen has its own problems, and the prospects of it becoming involved in or part of a possible regional conflict hardly bears examination. One of the things, therefore, we're spending a lot of time doing is trying to see how we can stop that through various measures of de-escalation.
Incoming UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has pledged to get Brexit done by October the 31st. The new PM and Brexiteer won the leadership race with 66% of a Conservative Party vote, beating rival and current Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt. Johnson garnered 92,153 votes from Conservative Party members in comparison to Hunt's 656. Johnson's victory catapults the United Kingdom towards a Brexit showdown with the EU.
And we know the mantra of the campaign that has just gone by. In case you've forgotten it, You probably have. It's always a couple of, it is deliver Brexit, unite the country and defeat Jeremy Corbyn. And that is what we're going to do. And I know some wag has already pointed out that deliver, unite and defeat was not the perfect acronym for an election campaign, since unfortunately it spells dud. But they forgot the final E, my friends. E for energize. And I say to all the doubters, dude, we are going to energize the country. We're going to get Brexit done on October the 31st. We're going to take advantage of all the opportunities that it will bring in a new spirit of can-do. And we are once again going to believe in ourselves and what we can achieve. And like some slumbering giant, we are going to rise and ping off the guy ropes of self-doubt and negativity. With better education, better infrastructure, more police, fantastic full fibre broadband sprouting in every household, we are going to unite this amazing country and we are going to take it forward. I thank you all very much for the incredible honour that you have just done me. I will work flat out from now on with my team that I will build, I hope, in the next few days to repay your confidence. But in the meantime, the campaign is over and the work begins. Thank you all very much.
He's a bug of energy, he's all gung-ho. Let's see how that will pan out. And US President Donald Trump congratulated Boris Johnson, who was elected leader of Britain's governing Conservative Party and the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom earlier on Tuesday. Trump has had tense relations with outgoing British Prime Minister Theresa May. Despite being hosted for a state visit, ties were further strained this month following leaked messages by the British ambassador to Washington that referred to Trump. The official later quit. The US president has repeatedly praised Johnson, the flamboyant former London mayor and pro-Brexit champion who has been compared to the Republican US president, a former reality television host and real estate developer known for his unconventional combative approach to politics.
Really good man is going to be the Prime Minister of the UK now, Boris Johnson. Good man. He's tough and he's smart. They're saying Britain Trump. They call him Britain Trump, and people are saying that's a good thing. That they like me over there. That's what they wanted. That's what they need. That's what they need. He'll get it done. Boris is good. He's going to do a good job. I think Nigel's someplace in this audience. Where's Nigel? Where is he? Nigel Farage. He's here someplace. I saw him. I said, what is he doing here? He's a little older than most of you. Where is he? Nigel. Nigel. I'll tell you what, he got 32% of the vote from nowhere over in UK. Nigel, thank you, Nigel. I said, what's Nigel doing here? He's a little older than you folks, but he did a great job. And I know he's going to work well with Boris. They're going to do some tremendous things.
Right, we want to buckle down to discuss a raft of issues, of course, looking at the war in Yemen, also what is happening with the Anglo-Francophone, of course, tensions in Cameroon, and Nigeria, as well as far as Boko Haram is concerned, and also the installation of the new British Prime Minister, I should say, Boris Johnson, who will be installed today in the UK. So if you joined us at the top of the hour, I'd introduce to you Dr. Mustafa Yusuf Ali, who is a conflict and resolution expert. We do have with us also the director at the Horn Institute, Dr. Hassan Kanenje, with us. We have also Peter Kagwanja, who is the CEO of Africa Policy Institute, and Ahmed Hashi, who is a governance and policy expert. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Debar.
Good morning. Plenty of coffee, tea, if you want me to serve you. If your energy levels are down, please. So that let's get engaging, of course, on the raft of issues here as far as the security is concerned. But let's just begin from Cameroon. And we've had this issue for a long time right now. The tension that is ongoing, and we can see now there are protests. We have people who have been arrested in prisons right now. Also, they're protesting. And let's get to the genesis of Anglo-Francophone speaking, of course, segments of the Cameroon, and how this is fueling tensions. And it seems there is no remedial measure so far as abating, or maybe trying to quell the tension is concerned, not really abating. Could we just get the genesis of where all this began, Dr. Mustafa?
Yeah, Dibala, I think Professor Kagwanja is perhaps one
as
a historian, one of the most accomplished scholars in this field to talk about some of these issues.
All right, yes, let's hear from Professor Kagwanja.
Really, Cameroon is one of the very interesting African countries, very, very close to Somalia, where you have very many colonizers in one country, and therefore dividing the identity of a country. Cameroon basically is largely seen as a francophone country. It is a francophone, but largely it's one of the very few African countries that also speak the two languages, English and French, and that has much to do with the history of colonization of the country. And therefore, I think about 2 years ago, the country began to unravel because the English part of the country feels that they are excluded from the francophone Cameroon, and therefore wanted to form their own country, an independent country. So this is a more or less a secessionist movement, very similar to Casamance in Senegal, where you want to form a country called Abazonia.
Abazonia, yes.
And Abazonia is a kind of a joining of two words, which is Amba, which is the region, the Aba Bay, and also the mouth, what the local people call the mouth of the river, which is Abans or something like that. So they're trying basically to create a new identity, and they're fighting on the language lines. The details are more from a historical perspective, but I think this is Africa's newest secessionist movement. The debate is whether Cameroon is in civil war or not. But some think that Cameroon is very quickly hurtling to civil war as a country, because for 2 years they've been unable to defeat this movement. I know there are efforts by the United States and other countries basically to kind of engineer a reconciliation movement, but that would mean overhauling the social contract of the country to enable the two linguistic camps to feel that they belong to the same country. And I think that's the gist of the matter.
But it has really taken a long, protracted time, because I think also this is what, the fourth year that we're really talking about these particular tensions that now are brewing. I don't know, do you think we're having any remedial measures from the government to try, because it always seems we are just quelling the tensions. We're actually, cracking down on the protesters. Dr. Kanenje.
Just follow up with what Prof has been discussing. The history, of course, goes back to the colonial time, and what now they're being called Ambazonia was the British Southern Cameroons, which technically is actually west of Cameroon, and consistently this group has felt marginalized by the larger Francophone or Franco-speaking, and I don't think there has been incentive by the B administration, who has been in power for longer than you've been alive, Dibal, that to move towards actually accommodating their grievances or even recognizing them. Now, we also know generally the French tend to have an oversized influence in most Francophone countries, more so in Africa. And a lot of times when they are not in favor of a certain idea, especially politically, it becomes extremely challenging for actually a group within a Francophone countries to be successful, especially in demanding for certain rights. Now, I don't see this problem going away. Anyone who has interacted with Cameroonians, especially from that region, and mostly, the Bamenda-speaking people who are semi-Bantus, they are extremely determined to actually either get out of the union or become completely autonomous. Now, so unless Africa and, of course, the world actually moves to try and assist them to some kind of a negotiation, the kind of violence that is going on is likely to continue. It's only going to get worse. Now, that is also complicated by the fact that, Paul Biya, of course, is also aging. And we don't know the extent to which he's in control. He lives outside the country more than he actually lives in Cameroon. And so who is exactly in charge? So it's possible that other things other factors within Cameroon might actually lead to an implosion, because even within the Francophone speaking, politically, you have some competing interests right now in trying to, to see who's going to succeed Paul Biya. But there hasn't been a movement actually towards recognizing or addressing the grievances that are coming from Southern Cameroonians. And as long as that is not solved, I think the problem is going to get worse.
So is a faction all about political expediency? Because we saw actually towards the general election, with these particular tensions were really heightened between, the two factions.
It does happen. There's a theory in international relations that says, external enmity tends to foster internal enmity. So whether it's internal politics or external politics, when you create an enemy of the other, or create that otherness, it tends to unite your group. And so the Francophone in particular has actually been using that to try and mobilize people and unite them against the potential breakaway or rather secession of Southern Cameroon. However, you can exploit that for only so long, because eventually people are actually going to need food on the table. And a lot of Cameroonians increasingly, Cameroon's not been getting richer, it's actually been getting increasingly poorer. And that is part of the challenge. And so the population has been growing. I think right now, 20-something million. At independence, there were very, very few people. And so if this is not managed, and Paul Biya has been powerful for extremely long time, you have internal dynamics, including from the Francophone itself. There are lots of opposition people, either they've been exiled or they're in prison today. There's some internal dynamics with regard to the ethnic political composition, actually, and competition within the Francophone region that may actually play into it. Now, one thing that I can see as a way out is having a major opposition force within the Francophone side aligning itself closely with the Anglophone to try and perhaps shake up the status quo. In the absence of that, it's going to be increasingly difficult, because Anglophones are technically a minority in Cameroon, and Francophone a majority. And as long as we're playing the language politics, it's going to be hard. It's just like the tribal politics we play sometimes in this part of the world.
All right, external amity tends to foster internal amity. Are we seeing a trajectory or maybe a resemblance of what is happening in South Sudan, with Biya having, being in power for quite a long time, hanging by the fingernails? People are getting, a bit antsy with the establishment, so they want actually to upset the apple cart. Ahmed Hashim?
The problem is a problem of political economy, African political economy. And the problem of secession is a problem of running away from the injustices that pervade most of our African countries. And it is a structure that needs to be changed. We have failed in the project of nationhood. Few countries have succeeded. Tanzania next door has done very well. It has shown the way on how to create a nation out of a disparate group of tribal people.
Yes.
We have President Masisi in the country today, an example of probably one of the best countries in Africa, where their Minister of Internal Affairs was arrested at the airport for corruption, just right after he landed in Dubai. So if you get fairness in a society, if you build a nationhood, if you build a democratic structure, and willy-nilly, if the citizens of that country have a chance to succeed, secession will not be an option. We in this continent are trying to bring regions together.
Yes.
We're not trying to separate countries. South Sudan is a special case because of the genocide that happened there, and the problems of 50 years of trying to integrate the Sudan into one nation. It's unfortunate that South Sudan was separated from Sudan, but it came to a head, and there was no other solution. But that's probably indicative of what's happening in South Sudan internally.
Yes.
That shows that secession does not cure problems of democracy, the economy, and social justice. You saw the ethnic groups there battling for power, battling for the resources of the state.
Yes.
How we solve our problems of nationhood and community is probably the great project of this continent. And we in Kenya, by some grace, haven't fallen apart, because we have huge problems. We have problems of ethnicity, we have problems of corruption, we have problems of unfairness. That takes the national spirit out of the nation. And until we find the kind of leadership that understands that democratic government, the government of the people, by the people, and for the people is the solution to our problems, people like Paul Biya will continue to hold fort in Switzerland while the country is burning. So this is the debate today in Africa. I saw Professor Kagwanja's piece, I think, on the Sunday Nation on Ethiopia. And I think that the rifts and the fusion that are happening there is indicative of what's going on in Africa. Are we going to choose a dictatorship that is a developmentalist, anti-corrupt, order in the ranks type of leadership that squelches any kind of dissent because development is the thing that we should be doing? Or are we going to choose a multi-party state with a constitutional government that fights these issues of ethnicity and gives people the basic freedoms that they deserve? And Ethiopia is an example of this melting pot of a new Africa that is emerging. It is emerging on three fronts: that you cannot rule a country by a dictatorship. I am on the side of the Democrats. I am not on the side of the powerful developmentalist state. And I think it is important for us to call into question these fundamental issues in our analysis of how we should move forward. And I agree with much of what my panelists have said, but I think that since we're talking about security in this panel, that the greatest security threat that we have in Africa today is whether or not we decide to be a nation. Because if we don't decide to be a nation, we're not going to be a nation. We're going to get the collateral damage that destroys what we feel should be part of our national spirit. Apart from that, Debal, I think that the people of Cameroon, as has been explained here, are a victim. Sometimes we speak about Francophone, Anglophone as if they're part of our historical, cultural matrix. They are not. These are different languages and different influences from foreign imperial powers. And those who have been colonized by the British tend to think that the British did a wonderful job and the ones who were colonized by the French did not. I think that's pathetic. I think that it is the colonial structure that was terrible. I think that probably I've been a huge supporter of Kiswahili as a language in this continent, and I hope that people understand that the way forward is to fight corruption, to fight for democratic government, and to fight for nationhood.
Right, and I think also Swahili is out of the gate as far as installing maybe one African language, or yes, to be a common African language in the continent. I think that is in the talks. I don't know if I'm wrong. I think I read somewhere. Peter Kagwanja, is that the case?
Well, language can unite.
Language can unite.
But if language was the one that builds the nation, then Somalia would be okay. Yeah. So they speak one language, and they have one common history, the same faith.
So with different clanisms that they do have, they have one common language?
There is a misconception here.
It's part of the ingredient.
Okay.
It's part of.
But not the silver bullet that that's supposed to shoot everything. Now, let me put this point this way, kind of putting the context here. And because Ahmed has talked about whether we are willing or not willing to be part of a nation state. Now, if you look at the formation of the state in the West, it was formed along ethnic nations, the Swiss, the English. So England is for the English.
Yeah, but Professor, before we even drill deeper, because I think the throwing in of the word nation, the throwing in of the word state, the throwing in of the word country, sometimes really go way over our heads that we cannot really differentiate. So
that's what I want to.
So when you say the nation state, I think we are thrown off a kilter, some of us, that we cannot try and see. He's talking about nationhood, statesmanship, being a countryman as well.
It's very,
what is the difference?
It's very simple, Dibal. In Europe, they took the ethnic groups, let's say Kikuyu, Zulu, Yoruba, and they formed nations.
They form nations.
So that's why we talk about the nation states, because they are states formed out of certain ethnic nations. And over time, we have come to accept that the Swiss, I mean the Danes are in Denmark. The Germans are in Germany. The Swedes are in Sweden. And these are small groups. Some are 5 million, others are maybe 10 million, others plus other population coming in. Mm-hmm. But you come to Africa and you find the Yoruba now who are almost 50 million people.
Yes.
You go to the Zulu who are over 20 million people in South Africa. You go to the Oromo in Ethiopia here who are headed to almost 40 million, 50 million. And this is one so-called ethnic group. So Africa has a high order trying to create a stability within a state of nations. So these are many nations that were put together through the colonial boundaries. And we have to work within those confines. And I think that the engineering of the post-colonial state in Africa is higher than any other section of humanity has ever faced. That we are supposed to be one. That's why the only ideology that works with us very well is Pan-Africanism. Because the moment we embrace Pan-Africanism, then you find we get a solution to our problems. Because all these ethnic nationalities melt in the face of Pan-Africanism. And I think that's why we need to really fast-track the creation of the African, in whichever form, so that we stop this. Look, we have come from, in that part of West Africa, we're talking about Cameroon, we've come from a very vicious war, or Biafra war,
yes,
in 1960s and 70s. Yes, we have talked about Casamance in Senegal. Here, in Eastern Africa, we have multiple secessionist wars that have been fought in Ogaden, in Ethiopia, in NFD, in Kenya, and so on and so forth. And all these are unnecessary wars if we begin to conceptualize ourselves as Africans and not our ethnic groups. But we can never wish away the ethnic group. Therefore, we come back to the argument that Ahmed is making here, that it all rests on justice. You must make nations attractive to the citizens. Otherwise, they will choose the alternative.
Absolutely. But I think a professor has landed on what really is the ingredient that should bring nation states or countries together. The problem that we are seeing in Cameroon, in the Ambazonia, is fully and wholly anchored on the politics of exclusion, the politics of marginalization. So the people from Ambazonia do not feel as being part and parcel of that state or country that is called Cameroon. And part of that, of course, there are many reasons, including, the way just the French do their politics and the way they created the hard borders instead of the softer borders in their spheres of influence. Of course, the British did that as well. If the African countries are going to be successful, then they will need to make to ensure that those ethnic communities that belong to a specific country feel at home and welcomed in that particular a community of nations. So when you're talking about nations, for Kikuyu is a nation, Kalenjin is a nation, a different nation from the Kikuyu. Luya is a different nation. So all these come together to form a country or a state, for that matter. When we
we can use a country and a state interchangeably?
You can, yeah, you can. You can do that. When you look at, and this is what a professor was alluding to. If you look at the German nation, the French nation, it's one. If we are to use our lingo here, it's one tribe, and they form. It's one nation. So it is a nation state, but there are exceptions in Europe as well. If you look at Belgium. The Dutch, the Wallowy, the French-speaking. So you have several nations within that country called Belgium. And that is the same in Switzerland. You have like 3-4 nations in Switzerland, the Italians, the Germans, the French, so they have various ethnic communities actually coming to form the country called Switzerland. And what the Swiss have done is to actually transcend these ethnicities by making sure that those various nations within Switzerland actually feel to be a part and parcel of. So do you even know this, the president of Switzerland today or the prime minister? You won't even know because it does not matter. And this is what we need to do in Africa. As long as you have communities that feel that the presidency belong to them, and therefore you can exclude the others, then we will not have a country devolved. And I say this with a lot of humility. We've seen this happening in other places. If other communities are going to be excluded, marginalized from the center, then people will start asking, do I really need to belong to this particular country or state? And therefore, the high calling or the higher calling, I think Ahmed or Professor talked about, of Africa today is to make a country attractive to all the nations that come and live in that particular geographical or territory that is either called Kenya or Tanzania or Nigeria, or Cameroon for that matter.
Right, let's hear from Khanenje briefly.
Yeah, I hope you're not getting more confused about nations and a state, simply what it's referring to is it presupposes functional government existence, borders that are actually defined and you can control them, okay? And you have some semblance of sovereignty. That's as defined in the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648, after many years of war. So a state has to be formed. But a nation is a group of people who speak same language, same history, and sometimes similar aspirations and stuff like that. So European countries, a number of them, they're not exactly completely homogeneous with regard to ethnicity, but they were predominantly homogeneous with regard to language. Africa, in 1884-85 Berlin West Conference, we were divided into spheres of influence, which actually became states. So, and ever since independence, we were forced to be states that have been trying to become a nation. Those other countries have been nation states. And sometimes I tell people, don't be so surprised with regard to the difficulty of trying to bring states together, because we were expected to create the magic that these people created a long time ago. In fact, they could never agree to live together in one nation state. That is why they formed their own, based on their own tribes or ethnicities. Now, coming back, home to Africa, it is true. If we get stuck in this parochialism, chances are we will never be able to form a nation state. And only a spirit that transcends our own ethnicities and our own nations or our own even countries can actually be able to get Africa out of this quagmire.
Right, thank you.
Well, just to make this...
Actually, I'm sorry to butt in. We'll just have to take a short break. When we circle back, we can pick up with you and continue. You're watching Standing on Guard, where we're keeping an eye on the enemy, of course, discussing matters security and diplomacy, and of course, also looking at global affairs as well. So we take a short break right now. When we circle back, we continue with more. Also, you can send in your contribution. You can actually send them through our Twitter handle, AMLiveNTV. Also, AMLiveNTV, our profile name on Facebook, and 20686, our SMS portal. Don't go away.
Hello? Yeah, it's me. Okay, baby.
Can I buy a chocolate, please? It's for my mom.
Hey, your change.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Thank you, Bella. There's a class and a half in everyone.
Own a very prime piece of land in Othaya town, 800 meters from Othaya Level 6 Hospital, 800 meters from the tarmac. Utilities like water, sewer line and electricity are available. The piece of land is accessible through an all-weather road which will be tarmacked soon. The land is a 2.3 acre and with ready title deed. For inquiries, call 0758 517 363. Don't miss out on an opportunity to own a very prime piece of land in Nyeri County.
I'm going to take time out to celebrate you. By this time next week, you'll be complete.
This is what you signed up for.
Correction, this is what you signed me up for.
Can you come out so I can see you? You can't just barge into people's home and take away their children.
Lord, if you hear me, help me, please.
USIU Africa provides a world-class education that is dually accredited in Kenya and the United States. Apply now for the September 2019 intake and soar to greater heights with USIU Africa. Education to take you places.
Gazeti liloboreshwa la Mwanaspoti linakuletea mengi ya kufurahisha macho na moyo. Kwa taarifa zote za soka, riadha za kusisimua, burudani za kitaifa na kimataifa ambazo zitakukonga moyo, bila kusahau vuvumio na usasa katika fasheni na ulimwende. Yote haya katika toleo jipya liloboreshwa la gazeti la Mwanaspoti utakalopata kila Jumanne na Jumamosi na sasa la Alhamisi kwa shilingi 35 tu. Pata toleo lako sasa.
Africa's biggest wind farm, Ketraco, were tasked with constructing a 435-kilometer transmission line comprising of 991 towers.
Ketraco fiber will be available at every substation in all counties.
This project has a story of passion, a story of dedication, a story of hard work.
Ketraco, building a world-class national grid.
Welcome back. You're watching Standing on Guard here on AM Live. We're keeping an eye on the enemy. We continue the conversation as far as security is concerned. We were looking at the Anglo-Francophone, of course, tension in Cameroon right now. And before we took a short break, it was on the tongue of Hamed Ashi to say something on that. Also, we're joined this morning by Dr. Simeon Sungi, who is an assistant professor at the USIU. He's a criminologist, Department of Sociology. We continue apace with the conversation. Let's just hear from you, Hamed Ashi.
Well, I was just trying to make a sense. The discussions here must make sense to the common mwananchi here in Kenya. For him to think about in his daily life as to how he goes about trying to negotiate himself with other communities and the state. And you know, Debal, that we've had this huge corruption case in Kenya. And there is... President Kenyatta is now considering someone for the finance ministry. All these questions that we're speaking about are going to come to his table as to what choice he's going to make, because he has to consider not only professional issues, he has to consider ethnic issues, he has to consider regional issues, he has to consider balance of forces in his government. He has to consider if he's going to put a loyalist or an outsider. These discussions that we're talking about of what makes a nation, what doesn't make a nation, what is a state and what is a country, come down to decision-making by leaders and how fair, as Dr. Mustafa was just speaking about. We've just had a finance minister who has been disgraced and taken to jail, and his replacement, how President Kenyatta fills that post is going to send a message to this country as to who we are and how we deal with our nation. And I don't know Esther Koimet. She's from my generation. If I were a president in this country, I would make sure that the people of Rift Valley don't start saying in Kericho and in Eldoret wametutoa kwa kiti yetu na wakapatia mtu mwingine kutoka kwa mlima hapo. That will cause a real, disaster in this country. Even though I'm ashamed to say these words because I do not like this discourse, it is very important. The great Benedict Anderson said that, what's a nation? So when we all feel like it. When we feel like we're a nation. I'm a Somali, I don't feel like I'm from Somalia. I feel more closer to Kagwanje here, who is from the ridges. I feel closer to you, Debal, than to Hassan in Kismayo. Because I wasn't born in Kismayo, I wasn't born in Mogadishu, I was born here in Gong Hills. And what you feel and how you commune with the people next to you is what makes you who you are. So we urge our president to be very, very careful, and I'm sure he will be, as to how he deals with this issue, because that will send a message to all the citizens of this country as to whether belonging, fairness, is an important part, because he has taken these people to task. These are some of the most senior people in this country. Right. And what is going on in this country is a scandal and a shame and to all of us. Not only these people who are being put in jail, but to all of us, because of the culture of not belonging causes us to be corrupt. Tunataka kuiba ndio kesho tukitolewa tuende kwa shamba. This is terrible.
This is a very clear case. Yeah. I mean, let's not just look at it as corruption. It's more than corruption. Yeah. It's tribalism. Yeah. Kenya is eating its tribalism today. Yep. And we are eating this kind of tribalism because the people who are put in places in high or low offices are put there not because of their skills and ability to do the job, but because of their tribal affiliation. And Kenya will never mature. Kenya will never develop the ball if this is the way is going to the high office or the low office, for that matter, are going to be filled because of which tribe you come from.
Yeah, and we must also look at this, the cost to the individual. I look at Lotich and feel pity for him. A person who stitched his career note by note, going to Harvard, spending your time studying to become a good Kenyan, a well-endowed Kenyan. At what point do you begin to change and look at other things that are not important? Now, if you have 10 houses, what difference does it make in your life? I mean, particularly if you get them in 5 years. You get the point? Yeah. Now, I think it's all the philosophers have said one thing in common, that it is your best grave and the best epitaph is not in what this is in the hearts and minds of men and women. That's where your grave is. And if you don't have it there, like you are going to jail, nobody wants. Look at the shame of our children. I mean, your son, your daughter, looking at this, watching you, looking at this picture, the father is, you have killed a generation. And this is what we're doing to our nation. You're not just killing us now. You're not rooting from us now. You are killing generations into the future. The daughter, the son of Rotich cannot feel a proud Kenyan. Talk about belonging or a sense of the attraction of the state. And the reaction is going to be different because they may feel that their father is mistreated. The discourse will be, oh, this was because he was a Kikuyu, because he was a Somali, because he was a Ruo. And the kid will pick that line. Then you begin to see the Black Panther. You know, a kid growing with vengeance and want to destroy because it was destroyed. Right. I mean, this is a very serious debate. It's not as simple as pronouncing Rotich guilty or not guilty.
The ramifications are deeper. Yeah. Let's hear from Dr. Sungi.
Yes, good morning, Adibala. Thank you for having me. Just one small correction. For us academics, ranks are very important. I'm an associate professor, not an assistant. And so that's very important.
Thank you for clarifying that. I know this. When the professor, the doctors, these titles are very key for you.
I'm happy he's back.
So maybe I should make a few comments since we're talking about the current events and what is happening. I think the steps that the Office of the DPP has taken should be commendable. You rarely see such high-level indictments in most of our African countries. I keep reminding you, I'm your neighbor in the south, and we've never seen such high-profile government officials, maybe a few who are charged with such crimes, corruption. But I want to remind the panelists, maybe I'm the only lawyer here, but I think we should avoid judging people from the public space. I think the Constitution of Kenya reminds us that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. It's good that we make these comments, but I think we should leave it to the courts to do their job, and eventually we'll see the outcome. But I think what the common Kenyan Mwananchi is thinking right now, and I teach, so I speak to some of my students, is that while this move is commendable, we want to see the outcome. We want to see due process take place. The ODPP needs to do its job to collect proper evidence that passes that threshold in criminal cases, which is beyond a reasonable doubt. And when that is successful, then I think the outcome will be the outcome that some of us are talking about this morning.
Right. So how did we actually get here to Rotich's story? Because we're in Cameroon, so we flew back to Kenya, and Rotich, was it in the spirit of nationhood and statehood, and the ramifications of it, the generational effect or the ripple effect of what we do currently? Is that the case?
Well, if I could just add 2 points before my panelists jump in. My job, or our job, is to try and make things practical for everybody to understand, the Kenyan public to understand. The Kenyan public is very sophisticated and very intelligent, and they understand what is going on, and our job is to help us understand it even better. I think if I could just speak to what the associate professor said. I think that Kenyans, to use a Swahili word, wamechoka. And we're not interested in an English dinner tie affair in the judicial system, and many Kenyans believe that many corrupt people should be shot. Because if you walk down the streets of Nairobi and you go to the rural areas and you go to many parts of this country, the poverty is gagging. And the poverty is gagging because of the corruption that we have in this country. And we have to deal with this thing in a very firm hand, and the judiciary has to know that the bar has now been set, and that they have to stand with the population of this country in order to prosecute these cases, so that we can have enough money to feed children in school, we can have money to feed babies and give them medical care and fund our hospitals, so that the money doesn't go somewhere else.
Thank you.
That's a critical thing for us to understand.
Thank you. All right. Additional comments before we close it?
On this one, sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, Khanenje? Okay.
Go ahead.
On this one, I think the simple question we are trying to answer is who we are, right? Who we are. And by we mean in our collective form, who we are, and whether we are comfortable, whether we are happy with who we are collectively, whether we are ethnic groups. Ahmed here feels closer to these people than these others because of who he is and how he has grown up. So that's the best way to simplify the concepts that we are discussing here. What is a nation? What makes a nation? And it's J.M. Kariuki who used to say in the 1970s that you cannot be, I mean, the nation is more than the flower. The nation is more than the coat of arms. The nation is more than what we see as nation today. The nation has to be in the hearts of men and women, meaning You cannot create a country of 10 millionaires or billionaires, trillionaires, and another 49 million paupers, and then tell us that you are creating a nation. So fundamentally, it is not just about inclusion in the feeling, but in practice. If you rob $1 billion, which is what, or 2 billion, which is what you need to make Wajir a Doha or a Dubai of Africa. That's what you need to turn Wajir into a Dubai. That is the money you need to turn Seaport into one of the most, highest tourist attraction in Western Kenya.
Thank you.
So in short, what we are saying is the issues we're dealing with are not just Kenya. We've just elected or have seen the election of a new prime minister in Britain. And that man is going to shape the fortunes of this world.
Thank you. We'll discuss that later. Let's hear from Hassan Kanenje briefly.
I think what we're trying to speak to is when you have an opportunity to serve in public service, you should not sell your soul at the altar of material possession or in a bid to please your master. When you impoverish a country through corruption, you plant the seeds of violence and revolutions. And I think we need to learn that. Because if we don't, and we're creating 49 million paupers, chances are violence in this country and revolutions are actually likely. And we do not want that. We know where we're coming from, and we know what poverty has done to a country in terms of violence and the kind of ethnic conflagration we see today.
All right, thank you. Dr. Mustafa, lastly.
No, Dibal is just to re-emphasize the issue of marginalization, exclusion, and justice that we are talking about in this panel. That Kenya cannot go to where it aspires to go or to reach or to develop to if our leaders still practice corruption and corruption anchored on tribalism. Kenya cannot mature and develop properly if we will still be having the so-called tribal or ethnic entrepreneurs continuing cajoling or putting their communities or blackmailing their communities when they themselves become corrupt and steal and say that a whole community is being sent to jail. Kenya will not reach where it wishes to go.
Right, thank you. Right, let's just gravitate also this kind of conversation on the UK politics, and of course also today will be the installment of Boris Johnson as the new UK Prime Minister. Let's just listen in to what he had to say.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. We're going to defeat Jeremy Corbyn. And we know the mantra of the campaign that has just gone by. In case you've forgotten it, you probably have. It's always a couple of, it is deliver Brexit, unite the country and defeat Jeremy Corbyn. And that is what we're going to do. And I know some wag has already pointed out that deliver, unite and defeat was not the perfect acronym for an election campaign, since unfortunately it spells dud. But they forgot the final E, my friends. E for energize. And I say to all the doubters, dude, we are going to energize the country. We're going to get Brexit done on October the 31st. We're going to take advantage of all the opportunities that it will bring in a new spirit of can-do. And we are once again going to believe in ourselves and what we can achieve. And like some slumbering giant, we are going to rise and ping off the guy ropes of self-doubt and negativity. With better education, better infrastructure, more police, fantastic full fibre broadband sprouting in every household, we are going to unite this amazing country and we are going to take it forward. I thank you all very much for the incredible honour that you have just done me. I will work flat out from now on with my team that I will build, I hope, in the next few days to repay your confidence. But in the meantime, the campaign is over and the work begins. Thank you all very much.
Also, if you missed it, this is what Donald Trump had to actually say about Boris Johnson.
man is going to be the Prime Minister of the UK now, Boris Johnson. Good man. He's tough and he's smart. They're saying Britain Trump. They call him Britain Trump, and people are saying that's a good thing. That they like me over there. That's what they wanted. That's what they need. That's what they need. He'll get it done. Boris is good. He's going to do a good job. I think Nigel's someplace in this audience. Where's Nigel? Where is he? Nigel Farage. He's here someplace. I saw him. I said, what is he doing here? He's a little older than most of you. Where is he? Nigel. Nigel. I'll tell you what, he got 32% of the vote from nowhere over in UK. Nigel, thank you, Nigel. I said, what's Nigel doing here? He's a little older than you folks, but he did a great job. And I know he's going to work well with Boris. They're going to do some tremendous things.
All right, let's just hear from Ahmed Hashi. We have such words as some wags and also dude. These are not really, you know, words that maybe they're in the diplomatic lexicon. Maybe this is a new entry. Peter Kagwanja or Hashi, you can actually just begin on that as well.
Yeah, well, the world has entered a very interesting time. When the values that governed the world as we knew it and as we grew in it, whether the Cold War world or the post-Cold War world, has dramatically changed. Now, and Europe is that epicenter of this negative change. I mean negative change because whereas the entire world is moving towards globalization, beginning to appreciate other people's cultures, beginning to live side by side and look for the best in everybody so that we improve humanity, a new movement is coming in, which says it's us versus them. And who are we? We are white Americans, so we don't have blacks, we don't want blacks. We want to create walls against the Latinos and so on and so forth. So isolationism becomes the new norm. Protectionism in terms of exchange of our goods and services become the other norm. And beyond that, then we get populism, where you begin to whip sentiments against others and mobilizing the very negative forces within society. In other words, rather than seeking to unite, you want to divide. And that is the nature of the American campaign since 2016. And if you read, those who like reading some of these materials like the Foreign Affairs, you're going to find the Americans are in their worst time in terms of debating their nationhood. Who is an American? And this is the debate that they are engaged in. Today, we now have an addition. I think, and I want to be bold on this, Boris Johnson is the closest you come to the Trump of Europe. And we hope he'll understand that he has greater responsibility to many nations, including those in Africa. And that the policies he's going to take are just going to rest on a history that has been built over the years, because Europe is our market and Africa is Europe's market. And therefore, his behavior has to take into account that he's not just responsible for an island. He's responsible for more than an island.
Dr. Hassan Kanenja.
I'm less worried about Donald Trump, but I'm more worried about the rise of Trumpism generally, because Donald Trump will come and go. We're still going to come for the bull. Chances are next year he may not survive, but there's also a chance that he may survive. Now, Boris Johnson has a very interesting background. Born in New York, in Manhattan, so he's technically an American, or at least he has dual citizenship. I suppose there is no debate over that, the way there was a debate over one of our ambassadors recently who was appointed. But what does that mean for us, for instance, as the Africans? As Prof saying, that is the closest Europe can come to having Donald Trump, even though I would say Viktor Orban of Hungary is actually very Trumpian in his view of the world. And I'll just point out a few things, if you can allow me to read some of the things he has written about actually our continent. Now, here is one quotation in the Daily Telegraph, for instance. He used to be an avid contributor. He was a columnist in Telegraph. So the continent may be bald, but it's not bald because it's not bald upon our conscience. The problem is not that we were once in charge, but that we are not in charge anymore. So it's looking at us. The last one, what a relief it must be for Blair to get out of England. It is said that the Queen has come to love the Commonwealth, partly because it supplies her with regular cheering crowds and flag-waving pickaninnies. This is a term that was used to describe poor black kids in the South during the slavery. Extremely racist. This is not a man that personally I'm extremely excited about. However, the rhetoric that he's offering right now will soon be confronted by the reality of Europe and its determination to actually stop further potential exits. I wish him well. I, however, think because of his position, even though at certain times he's been on both ends, actually, until around 2016, when he took now kind of decided view with regard to the future of England, it's going to be increasingly difficult if he's not willing to moderate some of his rhetoric to actually get any deal from the EU, because the EU does not want to give any hint that is willing to compromise on certain principles and perhaps allow others to have their cake and eat it too. So I think it's a wait and see at this moment, but as someone who comes from Kenya and from the continent, I'm not exactly inspired or thrilled by his assumption. Remember, he's been elected by 0.3% of the British population. Okay, it's not that there was actually a general election and he got elected. No, that's 0.3% of people who elected him. So let's wait and see. At least that is how democracy works.
All right, Dr. Mustafa.
Yeah. Dibal, in 2001, 2003, 4, 5, I was living in the United Kingdom. Then I was studying for my PhD in the UK, and my topic was on this particular subject, globalization. And then some of the English professors actually used to define it as all roads lead to Washington at that time. Now, that's when globalization was favoring Washington and Europe. Now, today, there are so many roads. Some roads are leading to Beijing, others are leading to Riyadh, others are leading to Tokyo. Some of those that used to lead to Washington, D.C. are leading to Latin America. You know, it's more diverse now. We have powers. Moscow is coming up. Now, to understand this problem that Trump, Boris, are trying to actually cause to the world, one needs to understand what do we mean by globalization, and why is it that now globalization is so bad and nationalism is so good, because it's not favoring the Western countries. And for globalization to happen, it basically is the increasing multi-dimensional, multi-directional flows, whether it's political flows, cultural flows, environmental flows, and all others, and the increasing extensity, intensity, and velocity of globalization, the flows itself. Boris is actually a quintessential byproduct, if I may, of globalization. Born in New York with Turkish ancestors. Ali Kemal actually is his grandfather with Jewish background. So he himself is just globalized. Now, I'm actually surprised he's behaving the manner in which he's behaving in terms of ratcheting up nationalism. And today, because all roads are not leading to Washington, D.C., the white race are basically, asking questions and reacting to that. And they are now seeking for racial purity because globalization is not favoring them economically, culturally. There's a lot of intermarriage. There's a lot of movement back and forth. You know what a scholar called Rosner once called the growth of intermestic affairs. Intermestic meaning domestic and international. So all these are coming together, and we cannot run away from globalization, Dibal. Now, the rise of ISIS was to actually try to counter the flaws of globalization, because they want some kind of a religiously pure state, in the same manner that the white supremacists, aka terrorists, want some kind of a racial pure societies, and it's not going to work in this day and age.
All right.
Debal, before I hand it over to my colleague over here, I think that the points that have been raised by my colleagues are exceptional. I'd like to add one or two things. The brilliant Canadian writer Dwyer recently wrote, I think in The Guardian, and he said that Boris might be the last British Prime Minister. Because Great Britain, Debal, as you know, is made up of several countries. Scotland, Ireland, and all these other countries. And those people want to be part of Europe. It is in England and that the problem is. And if there is Brexit, probably Scotland will choose to leave the Union because its interests and its hopes are with the European continent. But at a more fundamental level, well, we have to explain the political economy of Africa vis-a-vis the rise of the great right in Europe, what the impact is going to be for us. Professor Kagwanja and the other have spoken about how we export and how we buy things from them. And I think one of the things that I've always stood for is how we create our own markets in this region and continentally, how we have to be more self-dependent on manufacturing, how we have to have options in our government policies. We should have been doing this for a long time and we haven't. And so whatever happens in Europe, whatever happens in the United States is of great importance to us because we're still sending cash crops and and things like that to Europe. The third point is that Boris represents also something that is very dark about British history, and that is the anti-immigrant, anti-immigrant sense that is now capturing the imagination in Europe. Everybody wants to build a fortress Europe. Everybody thinks that everybody in Africa is walking over to Paris and London. And these citizens have now had this fear of the politics of fear, as represented by Boris, has put him at the top of the Conservative Party. And this is not the Conservative Party that was in Great Britain. The Conservative Party in Great Britain has had a much better predicament than the kind of leadership it has today. And hopefully we will see a Labour government in the coming election, and probably that will give us in Kenya a better standing with the government of Great Britain.
All right, let's hear from Dr. Songi.
So it has happened, these things I personally, because I'm interested in politics, would sometimes talk to myself and say, these citizens of these countries are clever enough not to make these mistakes. So the former mayor of London, the former foreign secretary now is the PM of the UK. And again, I never thought it would happen. In the previous appearance in your program, Dibal, I said politicians, and while I was referring to African politicians, at most appeal to their citizens' minds and hearts when they are struggling, and they take shortcuts in trying to find solutions to problems, that is, be unemployment, and things of that nature. And so this is what has happened in Europe. This is what we see across the globe, in America. But Brexit is really a lie. And I think if the UK citizens are put to another referendum, I think the outcome will be different. They are struggling to understand their place in Europe, and the economy may struggle because of leaving. Partly, as my colleague said here, is because of these sentiments about migration, and especially the decisions made by the European Court of Human Rights when it comes to deporting migrants, for example, who are in the UK, who have committed crimes, and the European Human Rights Court has always made rulings against that. So partly the belief is that, when we leave, we'll be able to make these decisions on our own, which I think is a lie. So I don't see Johnson surviving being PM for too long. That's my prediction in this show. The only problem is that the Labour Party also has problems in their leadership circles, and that can also contribute into perhaps Boris, becoming prime minister for some time. But my interest really is whether these political ideologies and positions that we see across the globe can come to our continent, and whether we will also see in 2022 a candidate who has the same leaning as right-leaning political views as what we see in Europe or in 2020 in Tanzania, etc. Perhaps that may not happen because in Africa we don't have those types of political ideologies. But this is interesting to see how these leaders in the West and citizens actually, engulfing around these political leaders. Maybe my last point is that politically. Citizens of different countries go through these changes, and this should not really alarm us. If you look at the history, political history, you can see we had at some point a Hitler and a Mussolini, and these people went and came and went. So I think it shouldn't be an alarming thing. I think what we as Africans need to do is make sure that we build our economies, unite Africans, and making sure that we remove these artificial borders that were created by the Europeans, and create a real integration that can foster development and improve the lives of our citizens.
Right, thank you. Right, you want to see also what is happening in the Middle East. There is also a plan that is being mooted by the U.S. government. But it is important to keep up the pressure on Iran as sanctions begin to work. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said days after the Islamic Republic seized a British-flagged tanker in what London described as an act of state piracy in the strategic Strait of Hormuz on Monday. Rick Perry, U.S. Energy Secretary, said that the rise in new supplies of oil and gas has reduced the ability of Iran to influence global oil markets. Perry he was in Israel to meet his Israeli counterpart, Yuval Steinzis, and Netanyahu on a variety of issues, and will also head to Egypt later this week for a natural gas forum to discuss international energy cooperation. Let's just listen in.
Sanctions have begun to work. It's important that they continue to work. It's important to keep up the pressure. If I had to say what are the three things that we have to do in the face of Iranian aggression, it is pressure, pressure, and more pressure to force Iran to abandon its nuclear and regional ambitions. I believe this is entirely within our realm. I think within not only the realm of possibility, but I think it's happening. And it's very important that the nations of the world who profess their desire to stop Iranian aggression stand with the United States and show common resolve. I think that we cannot allow Iran to disrupt the flow of oil in international waters. And again, I think the first requirement are those, the application of still greater pressure on Iran. I would not show any hesitation, and I think I'm a leader who's shown judicious use of force, and I think in this case, the judicious use of pressure is what is required.
And U.S. President Donald Trump hopes to decide soon on when to release a plan for peace between Israel and Palestinians that will not be ambiguous. His Middle East envoy Jason Greenblatt told the United Nations Security Council on Tuesday. Greenblatt, I should say, and senior White House advisor Jared Kushner have spent 2 years developing a peace plan made up of political and economic components that they hope will provide a framework for renewed talks between Israel and the Palestinians.
President Trump has not yet decided when we will release the political portion of the plan, and we hope to make that decision soon. We call on the leadership of the PLO and the PA to put aside blanket rejections of a plan they have not even seen, and to show a willingness to engage in a good faith manner a meaningful dialogue with Israel. And we call upon each of the UN Security Council members and each country which truly wishes to help the Israelis and Palestinians achieve a comprehensive peace agreement to encourage them back to the table. The vision for peace that we plan to present will not be ambiguous, unlike many resolutions that have passed in this chamber. It will provide sufficient detail so that people can see what compromises will be necessary to achieve a realistic, lasting, comprehensive solution to this conflict, the conflict that has robbed so much potential from Palestinians, Israelis, and the region as a whole. Many would rather rail against the supposed evils of what they routinely call an illegal occupation than engage constructively on the disputes that characterize the conflict today. That's not a productive dialogue. The dispute over the territory is a question that can only be resolved in the context of direct negotiations between the parties. And I am focused on how to get those parties back to the table.
Right, so why would we care a fig about what is really happening in Israel and the Middle East here in the country? I think this is a question also our panelists will answer. And this particular plan or the Middle East peace plan by Trump, do you think actually this will be the prime solution of what is really happening right now? Who hasn't spoken? I lost my sequence.
Okay.
So
I think it's me. It's from him this way.
Okay, yeah, Hashi, yeah, it is Hashi then.
Okay, so I'll give you the table for a minute. I think that that plan is dead on arrival. Trump is not going to solve the problem of the Palestinian-Israeli question. As long as Netanyahu is the prime minister of Israel, there's just no way there's going to be a deal.
But we don't know what the plan is.
I've seen some of the New York Times and the Telegraph have some contours of some of the things that they want to do. And the Palestinian Authority has already said no. They are not happy with some of the points that are inside that plan. And I think on the whole that a conservative right-wing government in the United States and a conservative right-wing government in Israel are not going to be able to solve what's going on in the Middle East. I think that without international involvement, question cannot just be led by the Americans. Americans are indispensable. It's the policemen of the world. And Israel, of course, needs its security. Everybody agrees with that. And on the one side, the Palestinian right to have self-determination is on the other. And these are the last 50 years. This is the question that has bogged down the world and probably created some of the huge conflicts that we have in the Middle East. We were talking about Iran just now. Iran is a major player in the Middle East. It supports Hezbollah in Lebanon. Without these groups, it's going to be difficult to find a large peace agreement in the Middle East. I think also, Debal, that the problem that Donald Trump has with the Iranian establishment, I think is a very serious problem. I think that President Obama solved this problem, and I don't know why this has come back. The sanctions are going to cause a lot of hardship, but Iran is not Iraq. Iran is a very strong and powerful country in the Middle East, and it's going to take a lot for it to be a pushover. But for the whole concern of world peace is we should not have another war in the Middle East. Nobody wants another war in the Middle East because if that happens, this is going to affect us here in East Africa. The prices of gas, the economies of the world will rise and fall based on the dollar's exchange rates and the amount of trade that is being done. And if in the Straits of Hormuz there is a shooting battle between ships, this is going to cause a lot of problems for the rest of us. So for us here in East Africa, the most important thing, or in Africa in general, is for there to be a peaceful solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and for the tensions in the Middle East to be reduced to a minimum.
Peter Kagwanja.
First, to say that America has to work on its profile as a mediator. Not after moving to Jerusalem and, the first order question is America to work on its profile as a mediator, to become that honest broker. It's not. It's not an honest broker, irrespective of the value and worthiness of its propositions. That's one. Second is that Israel itself, I don't think it's interested in some of these things. Its expansionist mission or trend does not indicate that it is interested in a sustainable treaty or agreement or peace agreement in that. Therefore, we are in this for a long haul. So it's enough to give out the world the tranquilizers. Well, so the third point is that, yeah, do we need this discussion? Yes. So that at least to convince the world that something is being done. And therefore, whether it is going to be productive or not, at least something is being done. So on this one, then you commend America that it is something is being done. But when you look at the policies that are now, being taken in regard to Israel and the American policy or Trump's policy in the whole of Middle East, then you begin to find the contradictions in this, because you cannot be seeking peace in Israel and you are setting other places on fire. A lot of progress has been made between West and Iran and other countries, particularly on the nuclear question. And the world was coming closer, particularly the Obama-Washington, was coming closer to something that the world was beginning to like. But all this is unraveling, and it's unraveling because of the hawkish policies that we begin to see from Washington. In regard to Iraq, we congratulate Trump. On the road to G20, he basically calmed the situation by saying he's not going to go to war with Iran, and that's okay. But the sanctions are not helpful either. So, and all this is affecting poor countries in Africa that are trying to rise to feed their population, because the Middle East is so important because of its proximate distance to the region. Now you are stoking the embers of terrorism and extremism, and where is it playing out? In Somalia, in Kenya, in Tanzania, and it's now going to Mozambique. Yes. It's already going to the Eastern Congo. So it's not helpful even to Africa, and Africa cannot sit back and say, oh, that's a problem for the Middle East. Oh, it's in our backyard. It's hitting us hard. It is eating to our market. It's eating to our partners. Israel has been a good partner in terms of imparting technological skills to this country. The Middle East is a huge market for our animals, for our products, and so on and so forth. We need peace in that part of our world.
Thank you. Asan Kaneja.
Assuming because of time, probably these are my closing comments. Now, this sounds more like a war plan, not really a peace plan. You do not aspire to do farming by starting to burn the existing corn in the field and somehow expect to harvest corn in 2 months. It does not work like that. Now, I will not go into detail because all of us who know what has been going with the peace plan or whatever has been proposed is dead on arrival. Golan Heights have now been renamed to Trump Heights. This first administration has been decidedly pro right-wing parties in Israel. Now, having said that, when you look at what is happening in our region, some of the games being played in the Middle East are actually affecting us here. The Middle East problem is no longer a Middle East problem. It's a global problem. It's a world problem. Terror, violent extremism, you have other conflicts going on. And in the light of some of the challenges we're facing even as a country, for instance, because even the current dispute we face with Somalia, there are certain actual players from the region at the same time who are fanning the flames.
Very true.
And for us at the Horn Institute, in recognition of some of, for instance, the maritime challenges we're facing, we've actually organized a symposium, for expert symposium, on maritime challenges in the region to try and figure out the best way in which we can be able to resolve this problem. And I encourage the audience, to follow us on hashtag Maritime Symposium Nairobi 2019. It actually starts tomorrow through Friday. I hope that Twitter feed is going to be more active than Dibal's AM Live Twitter feed, which has not been functioning very well recently. So please, I encourage.
What are you trying to say?
And
you've not even paid for that airtime that actually trying to promote in the first place.
We charge you
actually come with an
So again, I say, follow us and contribute and join the debate at, hashtag Maritime Symposium Nairobi 2019 starting tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Right, Dr. Mustafa.
Yeah, Dibal, 2 points. One is, 40% of the world's seaborne oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yes.
Now, if that strait, which is a very small strait, is going to be, the oil flow is going to be disrupted, it means that 40% of the world's seaborne oil is going to be disrupted. So we should brace ourselves for higher oil prices, and this can cause problems. We don't need that war. These issues can be resolved. Professor Kagwanja talked about, the West, Obama, and the P5+1 that actually negotiated a deal which Trump, basically binned. The second point here is on the peace deal. I don't know what is contained in the peace deal, but if we are to go by what Jared Kushner presented in Bahrain, which was, the most juvenile, and ill thought of a solution to a problem. The problem between Israeli and Palestine is not economic. What Jared Kushner was presenting in Bahrain is prosperity for peace. Palestinians don't need prosperity so that they can be peaceful. No. What they need, you need a political solution to the Israeli-Palestinian problem, not an economic one. Maybe it's a strategy that Kushner presents a juvenile a proposal, and then a proper one comes of a peace process that is more political. We wait to see that.
Right. Dr. Sungi,
so
lastly on this.
I think I agree with my colleagues here in this panel today. I think, Trump, with all his problems, if I can say, wrote a good book. The Art of the Deal is actually a good book which talks about negotiations and what entails negotiations. But what is happening is not negotiations. They are just giving instructions to the Palestinians as to what is good for them, which is no negotiations at all. This young son-in-law is inexperienced, has never done anything like this. We have heavyweight diplomats from the Americans who have not been successful. So I think even the Americans themselves are skeptical, and they know there's nothing happening. So I think we just wait. I'm excited for 2020, for next year. I think the Democrats, if they do a good job in explaining why they should take the White House, we will have a new president in October, January, and things will move in the direction that it's supposed to be moved.
Right, thank you. Right, I'll be remiss, and my director Jackie may just indulge me on this, because also this I think is big as far as the Middle East is concerned and the U.S. politics. We have Mark Esper, who has been sworn in to be Secretary of Defense, ending the longest period by far that the Pentagon has been without a permanent top official. The Senate-backed Esper, a former soldier and lobbyist for weapons maker Raytheon Company, to be President Donald Trump's second confirmed leader of the Pentagon by 90 to 80. Esper, who's 55, received strong bipartisan support despite some sharp questioning during his confirmation hearing by Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren about his ties to Raytheon and his refusal to extend an ethics commitment he signed in 2017 to avoid decisions involving the company. Warren, a 2022 presidential hopeful, was the only member of the Senate Armed Services Committee to voice opposition to Esper's confirmation during the hearing.
Discharge the duties of the office.
On which I am about to enter.
On which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir, very much. Thank you.
Right, I want to thank our panelists for that cogent discussion we've had this morning. Of course, I want to give you time to hold or have your closing remarks, because we strive for time. But thank you nonetheless for your contribution this morning. I think it has been a very rich stream of information you've given us as well, and we thank you also. Thank you to also Hashi. Having him back also is a treat for AM Live, standing on guard. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much also for your valued company. I can see also a rush of tweets. We have Irene Asuwa saying globalization and nationalization, good and dangerous concepts. We have to analytically and critically look into their tenets so that informed decisions are made. What led to the emergence of this? Who is propagating which one and why? And I think that's a very good contribution from Irene Asuwa as well. Thank you very much for your valued company. You've been watching Standing on Guard here on AM Live.
Space out your studying. You learn more by studying a little every day instead of waiting to cram at the last minute. By studying every day, the material will stay in your long-term memory.
We believe every child is a promise of something great. We welcome you to our open day on the 3rd and 4th of August from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at our campus on Committee Road.
Are you looking for a university or tertiary institution that fits your needs? Join us at the Career Fair by My Network Magazine on 3rd August 2019 at KICC from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The theme is Technology, Education and the Future. Entry is free. Join us and get the opportunity to interact with institutions of higher learning, tertiary institutions and career guide experts. Lots of fun and entertainment throughout the day. TN Republic will be live on ground. For more information, call 0707-871-918 or email projects@ke.nationmedia.com.
Your father was a mean man, but he was a man. He did all of his dirty work all by himself.
I know that you did it. I can read it on your face. It's in your eyes.
Look into them. Look a little closer. What else is written in them, huh?
So let Faria see it now, how it feels to have black clouds running over your family.
I'll mess with your nightclub, and your son will come running back to amend things with his dear father.
Why would I trust you?
It is good for two men with mutual needs to trust one another.
My husband is playing hero for his old girlfriend, and I have no right to be jealous or sad.
Do you think time will teach you how to speak and teach me how to listen?
Wake up to nothing but the best in news, conversation starters, and hard-hitting interviews that keep you informed for the day ahead.
Up and early, 6 on the nose, these people don't sleep. Fix fast the data protection. No, then we come up with the number.
Exactly my question to CS Joe Michelle.
Welcome to Living with This. I'm your host, Sharon Mundia. Boy, have you missed out.
Stop your wheel. Game done.
Thank you for joining us on NTV today.
We have our reporters in different locations.
NTV is right here to bring you everything from the beginning to the end.
Hii ni NTV Sasa.
Kuna mambo mengi sana ambayo yanafanyika.
Sasa ni kumtuliza. Hii inaitwa sensory integration.
Shughuli pevu ya kudunda viwanjani narejea kwake.
Na kurudisha hapa studioni. Kuna mengi ambayo yanaendelea kujiri katika maeneo tofauti.
Tunavyoelewa wanasema nini? Vimeundwa.
NTV in the morning. All you need to know to start your day.
Madam, mama anapenda. Hebu sikiza.
Sasa hizi tunaishi kwa generation ya Lambalolo na Rieng.
Rieng makangoa, hii kuruka hapa ndio unaita Rieng. We, utaacha kunibishia mlango hivyo umesikia wewe?
Na wewe utaacha kunibeba weri sawa?
Nilikwambia hawezi kataa fame, nilikwambia.
Na by the way madam, nikuulize, mzee anarudi lini?
The Real House Helps of Kawangware in association with Telkom.
Join Telkom today and share life on our expanded 4G network. Telkom, moving with you.
Africa's funniest gig is back on Friday, 26th July at KICC. Africa Laugh Festival with the UK's funniest girl. First time in Kenya, Jambi McGrath. Arthur Nkusi from Rwanda. Koi Nzungu from Tanzania. Ticha Mpamare, Agnes Akite, Salvador from Uganda. And a hilarious Kenyan battalion, Eric Omondi and Churchill. It's gonna be serious laughter. 2,000 bob VIP and 1,000 bob regular. Grab your ticket now at churchill.co.ke or dial *229 *29#. Africa Laugh Festival, July 26th, KICC.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Sharon Mundia, and you're watching Living with S. Now, to break the week, we're getting into a world that I'm willing to bet is unfamiliar to a lot of us. That is the world of Forex trading. Do we really know what goes on? And that's why we invited the expert. We've got Joshua Matumo, who's the MD of 4th Street Consultant, but he's also a Forex trading coach and mentor. So, Joshua, good morning.
Good morning to you.
How are you feeling today?
I mean, it's a good day.
It's a good day. It's a little chilly.
It's a little chilly, but
yeah, it's a good day.
Yeah.
You did actually even point out how great the view is from up here.
I love the
yeah,
view.
we're at Parkade by Radisson, by the way.
Yeah.
Great view from 11th floor. But now let's dive deep into the world of Forex trading. I'll be the first to admit I don't know much about this. But that's why I'm excited, because I really and truly will be starting from scratch when it comes to you breaking down what you do for a living.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, can you tell me about your journey? Did you always know that you would get into this world of Forex trading and money and trying to build, assets?
First of all, I actually hope I make you a trader by the end of the interview.
Oh, you want to make me a trader by the end?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
Then I started trading a while ago when I was in college at Strathmore.
Okay.
So it was actually random. Because I was in the library doing assignments and listening to some economics videos, and then a video pops out like, did you know you can make money trading online? And so that got me curious.
Okay.
So I started researching, and well, that's what the start of the journey.
So what were you studying at Strathmore?
I was doing accounts.
Accounts?
Yes.
Oh, so numbers was familiar to you?
It was familiar, but I came to learn a little later that it wasn't even a numbers game.
Oh, really?
It's more of an art, actually.
An art?
It's an art.
An art. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Okay.
yeah,
So can you break down what this art is? What is Forex trading?
Forex trading in layman terms is just the exchange of currencies. You know, like the way you have some dollars and you want to go exchange and get some Kenya shillings or get some euros in case you're traveling. That's basically Forex. But then us, we dive deeper into exchanging different international currencies at different market prices. And so what we do is we take advantage of the difference in the pricing. So we exchange one currency for another. For instance, if we have pounds, we exchange pounds for euro. And so if it's buying and selling of currencies and commodities. So if I bought low and sold a little bit high, I make a margin. So I make the multiplication of how much I sold, then I have my profits.
Right.
Yeah.
So interesting that you said it's the buying and selling of currencies and commodities.
And commodities.
So it's not just currencies.
It's not just currencies. We trade crude oil in Forex. We trade gold in Forex.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are the different things that you can trade? Because I'm sure there's a limit. You can't be trading bread and milk.
Yeah, yeah.
So what are you looking for? What are you allowed to trade?
Well, personally, and
Yeah.
what we train people to do is we train in major currencies. We call them the majors. The majors are the currencies of major economies. We're talking about the Great Britain pound, we're talking about the euro, we're talking about the Australian dollar, we're talking about the New Zealand dollar.
The American dollar.
Yeah,
I'm
the
assuming.
US dollar is, that's
The
like a
Chinese.
SI unit
Oh,
for
okay.
the Forex trading. And then of course, we mash it up with gold as well and
Okay.
oil.
Gold
Yes.
and oil.
Yeah, they're all traded in the Forex market.
Okay.
They are valued in terms of the dollars. So
Right.
no pressure about getting to, to find out how much oil is selling at. It's valued in terms of dollars already for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I think I'm getting it, but pardon me if I keep
A
asking
little
questions
by
and you're like,
little.
what are you? So why gold and oil? Is it because it's a finite resource?
Yeah.
Why those two?
Basically, for those who know even a little bit about Forex trading, they know that you make money out of volatility.
Okay.
When the currency, even in the stocks market,
Right.
it's only when the currencies and the stocks are moving up and down, that's when you get to sell and buy
Right.
to make money. And so for gold, it's a globally accepted commodity,
Okay.
and the valuation is a bit high,
Okay.
and therefore there's a lot of opportunities between gold and oil. It's widely traded, and so it's volatile in the market. And so it's in the differences when it's moving that you get to make money. So
Okay.
it's a personal choice that you get to choose
Right.
what to trade in the Forex market.
Okay.
Yes.
So in order for you to make money, you ought to ideally buy when it's low and sell when it's high.
Now, even better, in
Okay.
Forex, you don't have to necessarily buy when it's low.
Okay.
You can make money both ways. If you want to make money when the market is going down,
Yeah.
you sell.
Okay.
If you want to make money when the market is going up, you buy. So all you do is analyze the markets, look for opportunities, and this is what we train people to do at our company.
Okay. So what's the difference between Forex trading and the stock market?
Now,
Or the money market.
the latter is what you were explaining. The stock markets, you have to buy low. You have to buy low, then wait for some appreciation, and then sell high. That's when you make money.
Right.
And then you have to again time, and then again for the stock to come a little bit low, and then you buy again, and then you sell high. The Forex market is wider. It's we have a platform where we trade Forex. It's called the MetaTrader platform, and all these currencies
Is
and
that an
commodities.
international platform?
It's
or
an
a-
international
okay.
platform.
Okay.
For instance, for those investing in the NSE,
Okay.
you need a CDS account
Yeah.
in order to deposit, and then you
Right.
can always check on the stocks and buy and sell.
Yeah.
Now, for Forex traders, we deposit money with brokers, and then you get the account, the MetaTrader account.
So there is
There's a medium.
A medium.
Yes.
Right.
Where you deposit your funds in order to trade them. So that's a channel. That's what gives you the leeway or access to the Forex market. So you just deposit your funds with a brokerage firm.
Okay.
And we're privileged to have 2 brokerage firms in Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then of course you can access your funds online. And then what you need is the skill to analyze the markets, because it's all online.
Okay, all right, it's all
yeah,
online.
yeah.
So by depositing your funds with the brokers, it doesn't mean you're saying, hey, take my money, I'm going to wait 3 months for my 20%.
No,
So-
there's a point on that. We have
Okay.
2 types of brokers. We have the dealing broker and the non-dealing broker.
Okay.
The dealing broker has a license. That is, if you strike a deal to trade on behalf of, on your behalf. A non-dealing broker only gives you the access, so you need the skill to trade. Yeah.
So let's deal with the non-dealing broker first
Yes.
before we try and figure out how to get the right dealing broker so
Yeah.
we don't get conned.
Yeah.
But so with the non-dealing broker,
Yeah.
you're saying you deposit the funds, but then you have to have certain skill sets, an analytic mind. What can you take me through how you even acquired these skill sets? What did you need to learn or study in order to understand this space?
Now, I think to explain that better, it's important for me to explain how the Forex market works and what we teach at our company.
Okay.
We teach willing people to learn how to analyze markets using price action. Price action is patterns that form as the market moves. Forex, the reason I was saying it's an art, it's based on the fact that history repeats itself.
Okay.
certain patterns that have happened before are going to happen now, and they're going to happen again. So we train people to master these patterns. So when this pattern happens, what is next? The market is going up, so I buy. So when this other pattern happens, we know that we're getting ready to sell because the market is about to go low. So that's price action. And that's
so
a skill we teach.
You have to be a historian of sorts.
It's all in the charts though. You don't have to read and everything. It's in the charts, in the Forex charts.
And the Forex charts have what? They say, can you give me an example of what that chart would it say?
The chart is basically a graphical representation of the price.
Okay.
It's just a price, how the markets are moving. You see how the NSC has these indications of price going up and down. That's the same thing.
But I'm sure it was it was responding to something in the economy.
Price.
Maybe a change, a change in governance, or what is it? What is causing that fluctuation?
Buyers and sellers. Every time, let's say I place an order, I have influence on the market because I've put my money is running in the market. Another trader in Washington does a trade. Another trader at the bank does a trade. And so this is what keeps the markets moving. And then financial news as well.
Okay.
Let's say, you know, the US has announced a major policy of the economy, and people think it's going to affect the dollar in a positive way, then traders are more likely to buy the dollar. So news as well affect the markets.
Okay.
So there's a couple of factors, but everything is represented in the charts because that's where the prices move.
Okay.
And that's what we teach people, to read the charts.
Okay, so but I wish I had a chart in front of me because I don't know if the questions I'm asking seem a little ridiculous to you, but I'm just wondering, these charts, maybe they date back 20, 30 years, right?
Sure.
So is it that you're seeing that at this season, this is generally what happens, that it just goes up, or is it based on like what besides?
That's actually, you're getting it.
So it's a season.
It's days and hours and it's dates, as you say. It dates back to about 30, 40 years.
Oh, okay.
And so you can always go back and check over last year, how did the stock market, how did this pair do? What was the chart pattern that created on this pair? So for example, let's say assuming today is a Monday, it's let's say it's 10 or 11 or 12. So that means this is the current market price. Like if we're looking at the chart, then we have the current market price.
Okay.
And so you can always now go back and analyze the patterns, and you kind of decipher what has been happening on this pair. And so if a certain chart pattern happened 2 weeks ago, and it happens now, then you always have to make a decision on whether to buy. It informs you on which decision to do, whether to buy or sell. That's a skill.
Okay. So what you're saying is, if I wanted to know what to do right now, I can go back to 7 years ago and look at the Monday in July at 10 a.m. and see, what was happening there? What happened? And then make a decision based off of that?
Actually, we approach it more like we approach it in an analytical time frame view, like on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly. Like last month, how did the charts do? The last 6 months, how did the charts do? The last 1 week, how has been the trend? Has it been up? Or is it going to be down this week?
Right.
And so price action is what informs you to make decisions on trading, depending on where do you see this market going.
Right.
Is it down or up?
So whether to buy or to sell.
To buy or sell.
So this, I guess, then your work involves a lot of speculation.
That's why you need the skill. That's where the skill comes in.
Okay.
Now, price action is basically the skill to learn and study the charts and the patterns in order to interpret them in your favor.
Okay, so that it's more informed.
Yes.
But it's still, to a good extent, speculative,
yes, it is.
Isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Because you're trying to see, to try and understand, like, based off of this, what is most likely.
Yeah.
It's like you become a scientist almost.
Let me give you a real life example.
Okay.
Let's say we know we have seasons, right?
Yeah.
There's a rainy season.
Yeah.
There is a hot season.
Right.
But even in the rainy season, you get 2 weeks of hot sun. That's the kind of, so you know what's gonna happen, but you need the skill to decipher. Okay, I woke up today, but it should be cold, but it's hot.
Yeah.
So that's where the skill comes in. So you already know what's going to happen, the markets are always moving up and down, but you need the skill to actually decipher where is it really headed. Can I take advantage of this information to buy or sell to make money?
Okay, all right. So, I mean, I can imagine that it must have looked and been very different 30, 40 years ago compared to where things are today. Things like technology, things like different administrations in government in these like big countries. You know, the seven. Is it? Did you say 7 countries or how many countries?
The G7.
The G7, the Great Seven. So there's a lot that's happened over the last 30 years. And even just an influx of more traders coming into the space because you have access to the information. Has that in any way changed that chart that you're talking about, or is it still something that is relatively?
No, there's something. Today you're getting a lot of lessons, including psychology, technical stuff. So there's one thing about human beings. Behaviors rarely change. Greed rarely changes. Fear rarely changes. And so people trade out of these emotions. Those rarely changes. However, what has changed over the years is the number of traders, the amount of capital invested, and access to information. That has changed. It has grown, and it's for the better. Because more money, more volatility, more opportunities. But human behavior, human behavior, it doesn't change. If people are fearful about the dollar hurting, they're gonna sell off the dollar. If people think this is a good time to buy the dollar, they're gonna buy the dollar out of greed. Greed, fear, that doesn't change.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
okay. Well, we've got to take a break. We'll be right back with more from Joshua and the whole online trading Forex business. We'll be back in a moment.
Nation FM. More music and less talk. Nairobi 96.3, Mombasa 101.5, Meru 93.9, Nyeri 104.9, Eldoret 102.7, and Nakuru on 97.7. Follow us on social media on Facebook at Nation FM, Instagram at Nation FM, and on Twitter at Nation FM KE. Nation FM. More music and less talk.
The world-famous Molfix and saw the difference. Let's see how absorbent Molfix is.
Molfix, thanks to its ultra-absorbent particles, can keep more liquid than the other diaper brand, so you can use it comfortably all day long.
All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Molfix.
I'm going to take a time out to celebrate you. By this time next week, you'll be complete.
This is what you signed up for.
Correction, this is what you signed me up for. Can you come out so I can see you? You can't just barge into people's home and take away their children. Lord, if you hear me, help me, please.
USIU Africa provides a world-class education that is dually accredited in Kenya and the United States. Apply now for the September 2019 intake and soar to greater heights with USIU Africa. Education to take you places.
Nilizae kama hajalema.
Serikali leta dawa gani?
It's almost a year, nothing has been done.
I just need some form of information.
Dr. Mugo Wairimu first hit the headlines when a video clip showing him raping an unconscious female patient in his clinic.
With the puzzle surrounding the sugar saga yet to be cleared.
How many times were you sexually abused?
Like 3 times.
How was a convicted child molester allowed to set up a children's home in the country?
NTV News. Bold, balance, authoritative.
Welcome back, everybody. I've got Joshua Matumo, who's a Forex trading coach and mentor, and he's also the MD of 4th Street Consultant. We're getting to know all about Forex trading. And before the break, you said something that really caught my attention, and that is this space you're in, this world that you're in, is really about managing 2 emotions, fear and greed. Because fear checks in when you think, oh, it's going down, I'm about to lose. Greed checks in when you're like, haha, I'm about to make that money. So how do you do that? How do you start to make decisions that are really more about just managing the assets and also managing your emotions too? Is it possible to separate, or is it important to tap into those emotions?
It's really important, actually. I think one of the things that my career has helped shape is the discipline of controlling your fear and your greed.
Okay.
Human beings are born with an inborn trait of greed. You know, you steal this deal, you want the next. You make this money, you want more. You get this car, you want a bigger one. So it's a natural trait that we're born with. But that works against you in Forex trading, as well as fear. So what we advise is that the level of discipline required to make money in Forex is very high. Because even when things are looking really good, you shouldn't go beyond your limit of how much you're risking per trade. And that's a discipline that's required in Forex. And therefore, and your fear, again, when a trade is losing, don't panic into it and you're watching your money go down, but you have a limit, because the beauty of Forex is that it gives you a platform to control and put a limit as to how much you can lose at any one trade. And therefore, it gives you that. All those parameters are there. You limit a percentage of how much you can lose in every single trade. So no matter whether you're online or not, you're covered. You already put your limit. So you know in your mind that if this trade goes against me, I'm not going to lose more than 2%. And in my mind, I know if this trade works for me, I'm going to make 6%, which is 3 times of 2%.
Right.
Risk reward. Risk reward.
Oh, wow.
So these are some of the elements that we teach people. But again, the issue of fear and greed, that is something that you have to master. It's a psychological thing. And so apart from the making money part of the business, it also helps you grow as a human being to really learn how to control your fear and your greed.
Right.
Yeah.
You've talked about making money a few times now. Can you make good money off of Forex trading and sort of almost just survive off of that, of the money that's coming in? Can people do that, or is it?
People can make money.
Is it only for the rich, or how does it work?
Well, the thing is, to be really honest, you need money to make some money. But the idea and the fallacy out there that a lot of people have, they think that, you know, you're gonna jump into Forex and tomorrow you're making a killing. The realistic part is that Forex is a business like any other, and that's how we approach it. And in our course, we teach people the limits of how much you can risk per trade. And therefore, you can make it a full-time business consistently, monthly, month to month to month. But of course, you need a little bit of a significant amount of capital to use to make that money. Same way you have, you know, money that you trade in the NSE. So, and the shares make prices of a little bit of exchange. So you need a significant capital, a little bit of a significant capital. That is, if you want to make it full-time, a full-time career. But yes, I've lived off it. 11 years later, I've lived off it. I live off it. We started the company off it. I was able to drive here off it.
Yeah.
So it's purely, you can
Okay.
make a living purely
Off
out of
that.
it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So earlier we were talking about there's two kinds of brokers. The one where you what
dealing,
was the dealing and the non-dealing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the dealing brokers, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's people who are curious about this, but they're not going to study and go to. By the way, did you study forex trading at all? Did you have to take a course or anything?
I have done several courses. Online mostly.
Okay, online.
Yeah.
So there are people who are like, I'm really not that invested. So help me find a dealer.
Yeah.
What do you look for when you're trying to find a dealing broker?
A dealing broker.
In this
Actually,
business?
there's a lot of fraudulers out there,
Yeah.
even dealing and also non-dealing. And one of the ways to check for a legitimate broker is to, every country has its list of legitimate brokers.
Okay.
Like if you Google legitimate non-dealing brokers in Kenya, you're gonna get, but unfortunately we don't have one. We don't have a dealing broker in Kenya yet.
Okay.
But we have two non-dealing brokers.
Okay.
So it's a bit unfortunate, but you know, there are other international dealing brokers out there that you can always access. But the number one thing you always need to do is check which country the broker is, and then check the list, whether they're in the list of the licensed brokers in the country.
Okay. So in this case, if we don't have that list, are there still people who are dealing brokers? People or dealing,
Traders
brokers,
trading on behalf of?
Yeah.
I think what you.
Or what's? I mean, I guess my question is, just because they're not on a list, does it mean that they do not exist, or are there people who are still dealing brokers, but they're just not certified?
Yeah. I think.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Mama napenda, hebu sikiza.
Saizi tunaishi kwa generation ya Lambalolo na Rieng.
Rieng makangoa, hii kurukaruka hapa ndio unaita Rieng. We, utaacha kunibishia mlango hivyo, umesikia wewe?
Na wewe utaacha kunibeba weri, sawa?
Nilikwambia hawezi kataa fame, nilikwambia.
Na by the way, madam, nikuulize, mzee anarudi lini?
The Real House Helps of Kawangware in association with Telkom.
Join Telkom today and share life on our expanded 4G network. Telkom, moving with you.
I'm going to take time out to celebrate you. By this time next week, you'll be complete.
This is what you signed up for.
Correction, this is what you signed me up for. Can you come out so I can see you?
You can't just barge into people's home and take away their children.
Lord, if you hear me, help me, please.
USIU Africa provides a world-class education that is dually accredited in Kenya and the United States. Apply now for the September 2019 intake and soar to greater heights with USIU Africa. Education to take you places.
Mama napenda, hebu sikiza.
Saizi tunaishi kwa generation ya Lambalolo na Rieng.
Rieng makangoa, hii kurukaruka hapa ndio unaita Rieng. We, utaacha kunibishia mlango hivyo, umesikia wewe?
Na wewe utaacha kunibeba weri, sawa?
Nilikwambia hawezi kataa fame, nilikwambia.
Na by the way, madam, nikuulize, mzee anarudi lini?
The Real House Helps of Kawangware in association with Telkom.
Join Telkom today and share life on our expanded 4G network. Telkom, moving with you.
This is NTV.
I sincerely wish to express our gratitude to all of you for accepting our invitation and taking out your precious time to attend these celebrations. Your presence will definitely make the event more joyful and memorable to us. We wholeheartedly thank you for the same. I'm delighted this morning as we celebrate 50 years, which is not just another milestone, but it is a golden anniversary. We, the Kasneb family, truly thank the Almighty God for the far He has brought us. Indeed, we must celebrate. I'm a firm believer of Kasneb vision, being the global leader in examinations and certification of business professionals, and the mission of empowering business professionals. And today, we are here to celebrate just that, empowering professionals globally. So at this juncture, may I ask the organizing committee members to stand and wave the cloud? So those are some of the members of the organizing committee who are involved. And once again, please welcome, feel at home. And now it is my pleasant and humble duty to invite Dr. Nicholas K. Letin to give his remarks. Thank you. Welcome.
Our chief guest, Dr. Nancy Muriuki, who is the chairman of the board of Kasneb board, members of the board of Kasneb, the chief executive officers present, chairman of professional bodies present, representatives of training institutions present, representatives of professional bodies present, parents, guardians, students and sponsors, members of Kasneb, members of staff of Kasneb, former CEOs of Kasneb, the media fraternity, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Good morning once more. It is with great joy that I welcome you to this historic occasion to celebrate Kasneb Golden Jubilee